What's up everybody? I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. I'm Anthony. On today's video, I got another top 10 for y'all. Today we're gonna be talking about the top 10 most calorie dense vegetables that you can grow in your own garden. So stay tuned. Now, one thing I have to make sure I mention before I get started is, in order to make this list, I came up with a whole bunch that looked like they would be very high in calories and would be perfect for the list. However, I had to narrow it down because I have to follow 3 criteria I made for myself, all right? Number 1, they have to be easy to grow. Number 2, they have to be easy to harvest. And number 3, they have to be easy to preserve. If it does not hit every single one of these categories, it didn't make the list. Okay, so number 1 on my list should be no surprise, but it is going to be soybeans. Yes, soybeans, because 1 cup of cooked soybeans is going to yield about 376 calories. That is a lot. I have experience growing the Chiba green variety. I made sure I did a little mention of it. I talked about it when I did my grains video a couple months back. I'll go ahead and post it up here. But yeah, it's one of those things that is very easy to grow. All I do is plant the seeds down. They were bush variety, so I think the tallest one is maybe 2 feet tall. As long as you put a mulch down so nothing else grows around it, it is extremely easy to grow. It's very easy to harvest. All you do is wait till they're dry, peel the pods, and congratulations, you have your soybeans. So if you want to preserve them, all you really do is get them dried. You can freeze them, you can can them, you can do whatever you really want with them because they will last a very long time. Now, the reason why they're number 1 and why they made the list is because not only are they very high in calories, but they are a complete protein, all right? When I say complete protein, all proteins out there are basically built up of amino acids. There are 9 essential amino acids that you cannot synthesize in your body. If you look at things like potatoes, things like rice, they are good in about 8 of 9, but soybeans are good in 9 of 9, so they are complete protein, meaning that if you eat those and only those, you won't have to worry about any kind of protein deficiencies. All right, so that brings me to number 2. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are extremely high in calories. They are 249 calories per cup cooked. That's very, very high. They are also extremely high in vitamin A. If you notice that orange color, it is going to be very good for you in a supply of vitamin A and carbohydrates. So you absolutely want to grow this if you can. It's one of those things that's very warm weather centric. So if you live in a warmer climate, you are absolutely going to be able to grow this no problem. If you live in a colder climate, you might have to look at things like a greenhouse or something like that because it does take about 4 months. However, when it comes down to it, it's very easy to grow because all you do is put the slip down and wait. It's very easy to harvest. All you do is take a fork, put it below the tubers, and pop them up. I did a video about it. I'll put it up here. And it is very easy to preserve because not only can you dry them and grind them down to a powder, you can freeze them, you can can them, and if you really need to, you can always cure them and put them in storage like a root cellar for months. Okay, so since they are so easy to grow, harvest, preserve, and they're really good in calories, that's why they're number 2. My number 3 is going to be lentils. All right, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've never grown lentils because lentils are a cool weather crop. However, they are extremely high in calories because they're about 230 calories per cup. However, I'm going to go ahead and do a split off because it's almost a tie, like a 3B. For people that live in a warmer climate like mine, I'm gonna go ahead and put cowpeas. Now, lentils and cowpeas are both extremely high in gut-friendly fiber. So if you have issues getting fiber in the real world, in your growing world, then you absolutely need to be looking at either one of these, not to mention they are also good forms of protein. It's not a complete protein like soybeans, but it is 8 of the 9, so hey, it's better than nothing. And it is also extremely easy to grow, okay? These things grow up a vine, you put them on a trellis, and congratulations, they will put out so many, it's almost ridiculous. So you harvest as you get them, you can dry them, you can can them, you can freeze them, but I like to store them dry because if you store them dry, they're good for years. Number 4, it's going to be beans. More specifically, things like navy beans, black beans, and pinto beans. Pinto beans will give you 225 calories per cup cooked. Now, there really isn't much easier to grow than beans. When it comes down to it, pole beans, yeah, you got to put a trellis. That's kind of difficult, but bush beans are so freaking easy. You just put down the beans in the ground and they grow. When it comes down to harvest, all you do is you wait your 75 to 90 days and congratulations, you have beans to either harvest dry, or if you want to pick them in their green stage, then you can just pick them as much as you see them. It's one of those things that is so easy to harvest, even kids do it. So yeah, and when it comes down to preservation, it is extremely easy to preserve. I prefer doing them dried, but you can also can them and you can freeze them. Personally, dried is the best because again, they last years. Now, beans, most beans are very good sources of protein and fiber, so if you don't grow these or if you don't stash them away, you're missing out. Okay, so number 5 on my list is going to be potatoes. But like white potatoes. When I say white potatoes, I'm not talking about just strictly a white variety. I'm basically talking about anything that's not a sweet potato, because if you do like things like a russet potato, you're looking at about 164 calories per cup cooked. They are extremely easy to grow. You literally dig a trench and you put down potatoes with eyes, cover it up, and come back in about 3 months, and congratulations. Once that plant dies back a little bit, you dig them up and you're going to get a surplus of potatoes. It is amazing how many potatoes you can get from one plant. It is also very easy to harvest because, like I said, all you do is you just dig them up. And number 3, when it comes down to preservation, you can dry them and grind them, you can freeze them, you can can them, you can do whatever you really want to with them, because not to mention are they good for all those traditional ways, but you can also cure them in the garage and let them sit. Some things like russet potatoes, I've actually still got some russets from when I harvested back in July chilling. Not even sprouted eyes yet. So that kind of makes you wonder about stuff you buy in a grocery store, why they're already giving eyes after a week after you buy them. So they last a very long time as long as they are stored correctly. Let's just say that. They like cooler weather, so if you live in a warmer climate like mine, you're going to want to grow them in the spring and the fall, and they are extremely good sources of vitamin C, potassium, and starches, okay? The starches in there might be kind of bad, but the vitamin C more than makes up for it. Okay, so next on my list is going to be rutabagas. So I'm sure a lot of you probably wondering, what the heck is a rutabaga? Well, rutabaga is a root vegetable. It's about 150 calories per cup cooked, so you want to make sure you're growing rutabagas because they are extremely dense in calories. What they are is a root vegetable that looks almost like a bigger turnip. All right, it's about this big, and for me, I like to use them in place of potatoes in things like stews. It's funny because my wife doesn't even realize I'm using rutabagas. She thinks she's eating potatoes. Shh. But yeah, you can totally use those in place of potatoes in soups, stews, that kind of thing, or you can just eat them plain by themselves. You can mash them up. It's not that big of a deal. But when it comes down to growing, you put the seed down, you make sure you got loose dirt so you can grow the bulb, and it likes cooler weather. So very easy to grow, very easy to harvest. All you do is go, congratulations, you got your rutabaga. And to preserve, the best way to do it is to put it into a fridge, waxed, or a root cellar. If you have a root cellar, congratulations, you can probably preserve that for about 5 to 6 months if stored at the perfect conditions. So number 7, I think we're on number 7, and that's going to be corn. All right, there's 3 different types of corn you're mainly going to see. You're going to see sweet corn, popcorn, and a flint corn, more or less a grain corn. That's what I'm going to be talking about here for the purpose of this video. We're going to be talking about the grain corn because it just lasts longer. So it's about 125 calories per cup cooked. So it's very high in calories. It's a very good source of vitamin C and fiber. So yes, you need to make sure you're eating corn. It's also a good source of vitamin B. When I say vitamin C, I'm going to say vitamin B. Anyway, very good B vitamins, and it is one of those things where if you're growing things like grain corn, it's going to be so freaking easy to preserve. It's just like beans. As long as you let it dry out, you can even keep it on the cob, and it will last years. So you want to make sure that you are using it if you want to regrow it within 2 years, but when it comes down to eating it, you can last 4, 5, 6 years, no problem, okay? When it comes down to using it to cook, you can either grind it or you can nixtamal it. For me personally, I like to grind it. That's why I got my grinder, so I can put it down into grits. So yeah, flint corn, grain corn, amazing. That's why I hit this list. Righty, so number 8 is going to be peas. Yes, I literally just picked this, see? But we're looking about peas. I'm a huge fan of peas. They're very easy to grow. They're harder to grow in my climate because it took me a little while to figure it out, but I figured out finally that all you gotta do is plant them at the end of summer and you'll be getting good quality plump pods before your first frost date, which comes probably in the next week. So yeah, peas, really, really good for you. They're 117 calories cooked per cup, so they're very dense in calories, and they're extremely good in things like vitamin B, folate, iron, stuff like that. This variety is a English pea because I'm going to be shelling this and eating the peas from the inside. There are also things like snow peas and snap peas where you can eat the pod. Those are much quicker to harvest, but they just don't have quite the nutrition as a regular pea like this one does. And when it comes down to it, you can freeze them, you can can them, and if you really wanted to, you can dry them out and store them just like you would beans, lasting a very, very long time. Okay, so number 9. This one's going to be parsnips. I'm sure some of y'all are probably like, what the heck is a parsnip if you've never had it before? Because they don't serve them in restaurants very often, and you darn sure don't really find them at the store. Parsnips are a white carrot, basically. Okay, they are a root vegetable, grows in the ground, looks just like a carrot, but it's white. They are about 100 calories per cup cooked, and when it comes down to it, they're very high in things like potassium. Okay, you need to eat these things because they're very good for you, just like any other root vegetable. Now, one of my favorite aspects about this, just like carrots, is they are awesome and easy to store. Yes, you can put them down into a root cellar, but one of my favorite ways to store them is you keep them in the ground. Since they're a biennial, it takes 2 years to go to seed. So if you plant them in now, and you can harvest them whenever they get ready between winter time and springtime, and you can harvest them for about 6 months. Once you wait till the summertime, yeah, they're probably going to dry out and shrivel up a little bit. So you want to make sure you harvest them before that. But for the most part, they're going to be ready. The ones I have right here planted next to my collard greens are going to be ready here by February. So I'm going to be harvesting from February until May. That's the best part. Leave them in the ground, you'll be good to go. All right, that brings me finally to my number 10. This one is going to be one of those ones that I'm going to break from my mold just a little bit, but it's still very easy to grow, it's still very easy to harvest, and it's still very easy to preserve, but it's not a vegetable per se. But it is something you can grow in your garden every single year. What am I talking about? Sunflowers. Sunflower seeds are about 800 calories per cup after they're roasted. That is absolutely amazing, and they're a very, very, very good source of fats. Okay, so it's something you don't really get from the plant world often is fats, and you can grow these things every single year. All right, so you absolutely want to make sure you're growing sunflowers if you have the opportunity. Like I said, they're extremely easy to grow. They're heavy feeders, but they're very easy to put down. They're very easy to harvest. You want to make sure that you get them before your, chipmunks or squirrels or birds do. And when it comes down to preservation, you rake them off the head and you can store them in a jar. It doesn't really matter. If you roast them, they last a little bit longer, especially if they're salted. But yeah, that's why it's number 10, because they are so freaking high in calories and they are so easy to grow. And by the way, I did a video on it, 5 reasons why you should be growing sunflowers. I'll put it up here or down below in the description for you. So that is my list of the 10 most calorically dense vegetables or crops that you can grow in your garden. Keep in mind, the reason why I'm doing this video now in November is because you have plenty of time to plan next year's garden. I know I'm already planning mine. You should be planning yours as well. I'm not necessarily saying that something bad is going to happen on the horizon and you need to grow the most calorically dense vegetables you can because you're going to need them or you're going to starve. I'm not saying that at all. I'm merely saying if you want to maximize the square footage of your garden with the most calories possible, you will consider planting some of what I just said because they are easy to grow, they are easy to harvest, and they are easy to preserve. So hopefully this list helped you out. If it did, please do me a humongous favor and give me a thumbs up. It very much helped me out and I'd very much appreciate it. Subscribe and I will catch y'all later, okay? Bye.